Hello everyone, this is Wojciech Waśniewski and you're listening to the Participation Coaching podcast. I know it's been a while, well almost a year, but here is a new episode. Well, not exactly a new episode because it was recorded almost a year ago, but I finally got around to editing it and publishing it. But I think it's good for everyone because it's a great episode with Oliver Morton. Oliver is a junior and performance golf coach based at Archerfield Performance Centre in Scotland. And we are talking about his holistic approach to coaching junior golfers. In the past, he ran another junior academy apart from Archerfield in Scotland, as well as he spent a year in the USA as the Gen Next Golf Academy Director in Scottsdale, working alongside Henry Brunton, Pia Nilsson, Lynn Marriott, and Rick Jensen. So he had a chance to learn from the very best in our industry. He uses his wide-ranging education and experiences with a huge amount of passion for junior golf to create some amazing opportunities for junior golfers at Archerfield. Some of the stuff we talk about is his background and how he chose golf over other sports he was doing at the time, which is an interesting conversation and maybe a selling point for golf. The meaning of a holistic approach to coaching and how he coaches junior golfers, his history in coaching and junior coaching, as well as how it evolved from a TPI movement physical focused to more games or skills focused approach. We also hear what his sessions and the academy structure look like and why, as well as, for example, why children should have input in the design and content of the sessions. He also shares lessons learned from his year in the USA, some marketing strategies he's used to promote the junior academies, and ways that he's communicating with parents, as well as some resources that he likes to share with parents. We finish off with a discussion around what makes a good junior coach. So yeah, welcome back to the podcast. It wasn't supposed to be that long of a break. Hopefully the next one will be much shorter. Hope you enjoyed this episode and feel free to reach out to me or Oliver with any questions or queries or feedback. So yeah, Oliver, what's your background in golf and in coaching? What's your story in golf?
I guess it's an interesting one. My background is really I started golfing because I was a big cricketer and I needed to do something ironically in the winter. So me and my best friend, we just went to we stayed locally at a golf course about 5 minutes drive away. And then, as I played more, working that around my cricket, played a bit of rugby, so multi-sport background, and it grew over time. And then when, it came to the point where I remember it was pretty vivid. My dad sat me down, at the kitchen table and said, "Right, Ollie, what are you going to do with your life?" I basically, I said, "Dad, I think I want to be a golfer," and then he actually turned a bit white because he was an engineer to trade. So, he went a bit pale, but once, the color returned to his face, we devised a plan. So, the plan was, I constructed my A levels and my GCSEs, which are qualifications at the time in the UK. We basically did, chose the appropriate subjects, and I identified basically the one university I wanted to go to, which was Stirling. So there was the strongest golfing university, I could go to. And if I wasn't going to do that, I was going to basically just go turn assistant pro at Hillsborough, which was my kind of club that I grew up at. Fortunately, I got in and I got the qualifications, and then as I kind of played more and more and went through my university career, I was fortunate to have, play, alongside Richie Ramsey and realized that Richie was, significantly better than I was. I'd kind of developed the interest in coaching. And then I was kind of fortunate enough, once I finished my degree, I had a decent playing career there, and fortunate to study, get my first job in golf, which was Alistair Good at Gullen, which is where the Scottish Open is this year. And then, through that education, through the PGA, I kind of really harnessed my coaching passion, and really like the idea of the holistic approach. then from there, I went, identified that, that whilst the PGA training was great and it gave me a great start, I knew that there was some real holes in my, my knowledge and my wisdom. So I identified, I would say, that the leaders in each aspect of performance, the likes of TPI and Plain Truth and Vision 54 with Pierre and Lynn, and kind of just went to see them, went to their training courses, spoke to them, studied, and then really kind of developed my knowledge base, and then, further developed, I guess, my philosophies through practical application and education. So kind of the long answer to your question, but that gives you a bit of an idea of my background and how it's progressed quite organically over time.
Yeah, sure. And a question comes to mind. How old were you when you chose golf as your main sport?
Well, I actually started playing at 13, so I was pretty late. So I think I was 15, by that time, when I chose to really kind of just hone in on golf. I mean, I was a pretty good cricketer, pretty half decent rugby player, but being 5'6" and playing hooker, it didn't really stem to a career in professional rugby at the time. So, I really kind of went, golf seemed to be the logical progression. I got pretty good, pretty quick, enjoyed the social side, and it seemed to be that there was if I didn't make it as a professional, as a player, there seemed to be a decent career in it, whether I was a good club pro or coach. It seemed to be a logical choice. I went and hung out at my dad's office, and, the life as an engineer, not to discredit engineering, it just didn't appeal to me. And so that's really when the specialism kicked in, 15.
Mm-hmm. That's something that actually could be, let's say, like a selling point for golf, that it's the career opportunities in golf are most of the time much better than other sports.
Yeah. I think that there's lots of opportunities. There's lots of different aspects to the business side of things. So, and I think we're seeing more and more of that now with, the ability to specialize in golf. Especially here, I guess in the UK, we're seeing a little bit less of the traditional club professional route, and we've got other fields opening up, like, events, directors of golf managers. I think that there's it's quite an exciting time if you look at the development of opportunities within the sport.
Mm. Okay, so let's move on to the junior side of things. So what's your story in juniors and where you are now? Because now your role is partly to do, quite a lot to do with juniors. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, it's very much, I'd say, junior coaching is probably my biggest passion out of everything. And it really kind of started. I was at the TPI Level 1 seminar, and it was Greg, Rose, and Lance Gill, that I was at TPI, and I was there to learn the for adult side of things, and then they showed me what Milo and the guys were doing at at TPI and at the Grand, and it just kind of blew my mind. It just seemed so much fun. It seemed like a great way to earn a living. So I implemented it. I literally that night, I organised the equipment, got it bought and shipped to where I was at the time, a place called Swanston, which was a really kind of forward-thinking club, and still is. With about the juniors, about allowing them to play. And then I went for it. I implemented the TPI kind of philosophy, the LTAD, and really kind of just gave it a go. And then it just grew. It seemed to be really popular, the multi-sport background, and then it just kind of, before I knew it, there was 80 juniors in the program. Parents were engaged and involved. And that then led to the junior side of things really funded the rest of it. So I was able to get TrackMan and KVS and things like that, off the back of the junior program. It just kind of sparked an interest, and it's kind of grown from there.
That's cool. So what was the structure of the program back then, and maybe what it is now, if it's changed?
Yeah, I mean, back then, just because of the way that we had a lot of space at Swanston, it's a great facility. Lots of room, so there was a lot of physical activity, so a lot of fundamental movement skills stuff, so skipping, hopping. There was a lot of sport specific movement skills, so throwing, kicking. So there's lots of lots of stations like that, as well as golf. So it was tailored. So the younger children, around 4 or 5 to about 8, very loosely, would do a lot of physical games like that, as well as a bit of golf. So, and then as they got older, we would kind of do a little bit less. When they were about 9 to 12, they would do more golf. So kind of when they were in the sort of skill windows, if you will. And then the 13 plus, I actually got a fitness trainer involved with me to deliver that age group, because again, we actually ramped up the physical side a little bit. There's a 13 to 18-year-old bracket. So that was the structure then. And then now where I am at Archerfield, because of the facility, because of the way where we are that we've got, I actually do a little bit less on the physical side. So there's still plenty of there when it comes to the fundamental movement skills. But I'm a little bit heavier now when it comes to the golf, and it's very much game based when it comes to the golf activity. Mm-hmm. It's the technical input that I sort of am involved with kind of emerges through the game activity. So say if we're playing a game that's focusing on, say for putting, focusing on distance response or distance control, if a junior's struggling with that, they often come to me, and say, "No, I'm struggling with this." So then it creates that moment where I can actually technically assist them. Plus, that game environment allows me to implement some of the other skills. So, I do quite a bit of sort of playing skills, the Vision 54 playing skills side of things as well. So we're always developing technical skills alongside the mental and emotional skills. Because as a philosophical standpoint from me, I don't like to segregate skills like that. I like to kind of make sure that all my kind of practice environments and coaching environments do implement that holistic approach. So yeah, it takes a bit more time in prep, but than it used to. I used to kind of segregate things, but now it's very much kind of joining all the activities together. So and the physical stuff maybe do a little bit less explicitly, but we do implicit stuff with that movement. So I think that's maybe the biggest difference that my junior coaching has now from maybe when I started.
Mm-hmm. What would one of the sessions look like then, like such a holistic session?
Okay, so I guess if I was going with the 9 to 12 age group, the way I would simply design that is I would have we'd warm up doing a game. So dodgeball kind of seems to be the most popular. Mm-hmm. So warm up we would do a simple dodgeball game, but what I would do is I would implement some constraints. So say, right, well, okay, we've got to throw with our left hands now, or non-dominant hands, and got to throw with the right hand, or we're now going to kick. So kick with the left, kick with the right. So we're developing obviously those sport specific skills and fundamental movements. So it's through that game. So once we finish there, 10, 15 minutes. If it's a close match, it might go a little bit longer. And then from there, we would break out into the, fundamentally, we would maybe have three stations. So full shots, short game, and then putting. And then each of those stations would have, a specific theme. So say what, and with that theme would rotate. So, say in week 1, the full shots would be the technical station. So we might have TrackMan on there, and we may be looking at identifying a club path, or it might be curvature. We might be an emphasis on the ball flight. So we would maybe look at that individual when they're on that station. We would look at their technique, and we'd help them in there. And then when we go to putting might be competition. So competitions, that's where it would be a competitive game. So The juniors, there wouldn't be any technical instruction there. It would be, right, here's the game, gang, go compete. So it may be, you could have like a star. So, mix it up so it's variable. So you've got round the hole, 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot, whatever. So mix it up. But then they would maybe go around there, see, create a game. So see how many out of there in a row they could hole, compete against each other. And then what we would have on the short game station, that would be kind of open frame, or that would be more of a practice station. So say if the week previous it was the technical station, it would give them the opportunity to actually implement and practice what they'd been coached the week before, or they're trying to implement technically. And then really kind of over the top of that, sitting kind of in the surrounding it would be a playing skill. So if anyone's not familiar, I would kind of go to Peter and Lynn's website, Vision 54, and check this stuff out. But say it might be memory box or post shot reactions. So we would implement basically an overall kind of rule saying, okay, gang, so we're trying to make sure that we react positively or factually to every outcome of this in this session. We don't want any negative reactions. Any negative reactions, we have to pop a little mark on the whiteboard, and the competition is that who has the least amount of negative reactions during the session, gets to choose the activity or something like that that we do next week. So and then the juniors would then police each other with that. So if anybody has a negative reaction, they get called out for it. So really, that holistic approach, that kind of playing skill's always there. It's never, it's never not there. So we kind of, it's always, within those activities. So that's loosely, how the structure would be. And then the next week, or it might be even a few weeks, we might keep the same structure to allow them to implement that, a bit of repetition over 2-3 weeks, or we would change the theme of the station. So the next week, the technical station would move to putting, and then vice versa. So it would rotate. So we're always kind of keeping an eye on each aspect of their game technically, but we're also allowing them to have that bit of fun and have that social interaction, which I think a lot of people get into golf for. So it's not. So the environment's always fairly relaxed. It's not too it's not too top down or too authoritarian from my perspective. So they get to learn from each other as well as learn from me.
That's cool. And so I imagine you'd do each station in turn, right? Not like all at the same time, divided in groups, but you'd go to one and then move to another?
Yeah, you rotate round. So my sessions are typically, it's 2 hours with a bit of a break. So yeah, you would just rotate round probably a couple of times. So particularly for juniors, they practicing the technique for half an hour just isn't going to happen. So they would rotate around those stations throughout the day, so they get to train all their aspects of the game every session.
Mm-hmm. So you said that your approach changed from more like fundamental movement focused and towards let's say games and more holistic. Why do you think it happened, and how did it happen? Did this change happen?
It's an interesting one, because I tended to find that the real reason I changed it was because that a lot of the juniors were coming to the sessions and they loved it. They had an absolute ball, but I wasn't really developing that many golfers. They were enjoying themselves, but they were they were participating. But say they'd come to the sessions, had great fun, but then they weren't kind of playing golf in between the sessions. They weren't engaging with the actual skill or the game itself. So, I really kind of wanted to build in, golf itself and give them, so it was actually golf they were falling kind of in love with, as opposed to just coming along and having, like just a great time. So that was really one thing, the first thing I noticed with it. And that was really it, because they were really kind of developing those physical skills, but they weren't, I guess, engaging with golf. Mm-hmm. And at the time, it was pointed out by the club I was at that really it was like, look, Ollie, we've got loads of kids in the program, but the junior teams, not as comparatively, we're not getting as many golfers coming through as as we would think, and there's always going to be a natural drop off, but there wasn't the amount of juniors coming through into the ranks, should we say. So that's where, as a joint approach from myself and the facility kind of started to evolve. And, now where I am at Archerfield, it's very much, we're looking at, developing golfers. We don't particularly have a junior team at our club, but we do have a lot of the juniors. They play for a lot of the other local teams. So we really kind of focus on the actual training, and then they can go and, participate and perform at the other clubs. But yeah, that was the big reason why I adjusted the approach to being a bit more golf heavy. And I guess I also, there was a little bit of conjecture out there when it comes to long-term athletic development as an actual kind of as an approach. So I kind of just delved into and have been fortunate to be, get to have great coaches around me, the likes of Graham McDowell, Pete Arnott, Stuart Morgan, these sorts of guys who kind of I've had great conversations with, and they just opened my eyes to this almost non-linear approach, which kind of just evolved my thinking, and yeah, that's been it's a constant evolution. But I guess like anything, you're always wanting to improve.
Sure, it's interesting because it seems to be a theme. Well, maybe not a theme, but it repeats itself in the interviews that I do. Exactly what you said, that the sports based, it's fun. The kids love it, but they don't play golf, and so it's interesting to hear that it's the same across the world in a way.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think human beings are human beings, and I think it's just quite nice that if there are correlations, around the world, then I guess there's some wisdom in there.
Yeah. So would you say that the let's say the number of kids is lower right now with the games, the non-linear approach?
Yeah, I mean, I've purposely I've actually kind of reduced my class size. So just because of the facility and the kind of the constraints of where I am, we didn't want. I used to do classes of 12, but I've dropped them now down to 8 is my maximum, and I actually only have 8 per age group in the program. Purely because that allows me to kind of really go a bit more in depth with the juniors that I'm coaching. Plus, especially when the 13 to 18-year-old category, should we say I'm a bit more selective on who's in the program. I really like to support really keen juniors that are wanting to to really see how far they can go in the game. And with the other constraints on my time, I don't really have the same amount of time to dedicate towards juniors because the other aspects of what I do with the coaching. So when I am, with the juniors, I really want to make sure that I'm really kind of, I guess, putting my best foot forward with them. So instead of having a shotgun approach, if you will, it's more of a rifle approach. When it comes to the coaching side of things, and that seems to be kind of working. It seems to fit, and I'm fortunate as well to do some of the county coaching here, the Lothians coaching. So my program, I see that as a way to feed the county and the national structure and support those organisations with my program. And the best way I can do that is to make sure that I'm really targeted in the approach and the juniors that I'm coaching.
So what about the logistics at Archerfield? So do the kids attend one weekly session and all the sessions are 2 hours, or what's the structure there?
Yeah, so the basic structure is the younger juniors come to 1 2 hour session every week, and that's within school term time. So we don't have any lessons outside of school term because obviously holidays and bits and bobs. And then and that's true with the older age groups. But with the older age groups, I also have per term they get an hour 1-to-1. So they have 1 2 hour group session, and then they also have a individual session within that block. So the block tends to be 6 weeks as an overall. So every 6 weeks they get a 1-to-1. And that I've found is the kind of the ideal structure, because that allows us to, within the group sessions and their on-course play, it allows us to harness and identify where that hour is best suited. And I'm fortunate here that, they can use that either an hour with me, or they can utilize that an hour with our club fitter, Ross Leeds. So often, obviously, a major factor is the equipment that the juniors are using. So if they need to see Ross, if their clubs aren't right for them, then they get to see him as well. So that's a huge element. And what I also do is, not that I have a direct, i.e., a physical trainer involved with the program itself. I do have, a really good fitness trainer I link in with, a guy called Alex Woods at Golf Fit. He runs the county structure, but if there are any juniors that I believe, all of the juniors, should I say, that I try to refer them and get them to see Alex as well. So they're working on the physical stuff with him specifically, and then that means I can work on the golf stuff. Specifically with them, just because Alex is based half an hour's drive away from here. Plus, he's a busy man on a Saturday and Friday when I do my classes, so it just logistically doesn't work for him to be here. Plus, from experience, I found that the kids were pretty tired if they did, some really good physical work. Then they also tried to implement that any technical work or anything else that they would need to work on within that 1 or 2 hour session or 3 hour session. So that's basically, I guess, the whistle stop tour of the overall structure.
Mm-hmm. And what's the youngest age that it's in your program?
4-year-olds for girls and 5 for boys.
Interesting. And you still have them for 2 hours at a time? Yeah,
2 hours. Yeah, so still have a couple of hours with them. So, the 4 and 5-year-olds, we again just more activities. So I'll go around the stations a bit more. So, still 2 hours, still engaged. As long as they're doing different things a lot of the time, they're into it. Yeah, I'm not noticed a lack of engagement at all.
That's pretty cool. And would that be a bit more, let's say, sports? Would there be more sports activities involved with this youngest age group, or would you still have it like golf centered?
Yeah, I mean, I'd still have more physical activities there. So we would do a bit more of that. So we do a bit more kind of FMS and sports specific stuff with that age group. Yeah, so we would implement a bit more there. If required, but sometimes, daft as it sounds, I'm not too structured. I don't allow the structure to dominate engagement. So, if they're really engaged in a game, I don't stop it. If they're, sometimes even the 5-year-olds will be playing a game for half an hour. At the end of the day, the worst thing I could do in that moment when they're into it is to pull them out of it and get them to do something else, because it's my plan. If they're loving it, then let them roll with it, and I'd keep them there. But if they're not engaged with it, I don't, adversely, I don't make them do something. If they're not into it, then I ask them questions. I see how they might want to do it differently. So I kind of let them come up with a bit of game design. I give them that freedom to decide and choose, the structure of it around my theme. So say if it is, as long as it's, say, a game and my theme is distance control or start line, say for putting, I allow them, they can create the course, they can adapt it to help them stay engaged. So I guess that's one of the biggest things. That's also to kind of go back to your earlier question. That's allowing the juniors the freedom to adapt the activity to increase engagement has been another major thing that I've learned over the years.
Great point of not having the structure, like stopping the game. Something that I need to remember myself.
No, I mean, I always think of Mike Tyson's quote. Everyone's got a plan until they get smacked in the mouth. Yeah. Structure can be the biggest killer of any session and skill development. And plus we all know something looks good on paper, but then when the juniors start doing it, actually, isn't great, then that's the only way we know. So, like play, like a player, adaptability and variability are kind of the major skills for me when it comes to being a good coach.
Sure. And what would you say like the focus of the junior academy at Archerfield is right now? Would that be more performance based or participation based?
Well, right now, because we're still kind of in year one in terms of the cycle. We're probably in real time we're actually closer to 2 years. But just when we started the program initially, it was kind of finding the feet, see what worked, see what didn't work. So year one cycle, we're still very much in participation. Because there's so many other options in that performance category, with the national structure and the county structure, there's lots of other people doing that. So I like to start my programs on that participation, and then over time allow that to grow into performance. We still have a few performance juniors that come to see me within the program and privately. But the emphasis of the program itself is to build that base of participation, and then naturally over time, we develop performance players, and then it's really organic because you build that trust and that relationship with them. And even though I had a year over in the States, effectively, I still, some of the juniors from the program in the past, I still see them now. I mean, they're not working with me actually directly. There's one of the juniors in the county structure. But that the level of engagement, I still speak to them. There's an element of friendship there, which is to be honest, it's been one of the most fulfilling aspects of my career so far. That that these juniors feel that kind of connection. That even though they're not seeing me for coaching, that they still want to kind of chat to me, and and it's amazing because some of them are starting to do their kind of exams now, and they're talking about university, and they're pretty competent golfers. This national setup golfers, and but they're growing up, but they still want to talk to little old me, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's touch on your year in the US for a second. What did you do there, and how did it differ to what you do now at Archerfield?
So I was really fortunate to kind of get involved with Henry Brunton and Rick Jensen and Pierre and Lynn's Gen Next, academy. So through the connection really with Pierre and Lynn and doing their courses, Henry gave me the opportunity to run the academy over at Pierre and Lynn's base at Talking Stick. And it was a real kind of eye opener for me because one, you've got to get the visa and everything else. But then it was a different culture. So here in the UK we have physical. PE or physical education is part of our academics, whereas it's less so in the States. So there's a bit more early specialization over there because a lot of the juniors choose one sport outside of school and go for it. So we had 6 days a week for 5-6 hours a day. I was with the juniors over there. So that was a big difference for me as a coach because I got to really engage the juniors for 6 days a week for 6 hours, where I was used to seeing them 1 day a week for a couple of hours. So there's a lot of soul searching there when it comes to your abilities, and you learn pretty quick in that sort of environment. Plus, when you've got world-class coaches above you that are overseeing the program, and and developing you as an individual, you learn pretty quick. So I would say that was the biggest thing. And plus, a lot of the juniors there, because it was a performance academy, had one of the juniors in particular, he had 7 or 8 coaches on his team. So I had to effectively help this young man develop through practice design. I couldn't coach him technically because that was going to step on toes. It got a lot of other people physically, so I had to support him day to day, just through the practice design. Setting up the environment and making sure he was implementing what his coaches wanted. So, my role, I was almost like a chameleon. Then I'd got other juniors in the program, which, I was captain of all the ships. I was technical, playing skills, everything. So it was, you kind of, talk about adaptability and being able to kind of, connect with different individuals and different circumstances. That was the biggest thing I kind of took from that experience.
Sounds like a great learning experience, in fact.
Oh yeah, it was really challenging, but at the same time it was invaluable because, you're learning from, the best coaches in the world, in my opinion, fantastic mentors, and really lucky to have them. And it really helped shape, the environment helped shape me. And what I really wanted to do with, with my coaching and my career, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And going back to Archerfield and the first year of the program, what was your basic marketing strategy?
Well, we kind of implemented. I mean, the strongest is always word of mouth. So I would say that we get as many people in the door as we possibly can. So open the doors, get people experiencing, offering kind of trials. Get people just to experience. I mean, the performance center here is just, out of this world good. The team here that developed it with Nike, it was the Nike Performance Fitting Center. That was the origins of the facility. So our CEO, Tom, our director of golf, Stuart, they created a wonderful environment here, facility, which, we just, if people come in the facility and see it, straight away they kind of get blown away. And then so we knew that if we created that, coupled that with a cool experience with me, that it was going to be a strong thing to not want to come back to. And then we'd got the marketing team here. We just sent email shots out to the databases, and there was junior activity here, but there wasn't much. There was kids camps, but there was a bit of an appetite because the club's so family friendly and family orientated that it just seemed to lend itself to that. So we then sent emails out there. I kept on going with my social media side, my Twitter, my Facebook, Instagram. There's a few more in there now because there's so many social media platforms. But I just kind of slowly but surely just so you'd got the emails and the website was developed, but the social media side was very much like the back door. It allowed people to see the personality of what we're doing. So that was the main structure. We also did a bit of a rebrand of the center. So we did kind of a bit of traditional print media, but that was kind of as a center globally. So for our fitting and other kind of golf school experiences with T-Pegs, with Gary Nickel. So there's a lot that we offer here, but it was very much kind of a scattered approach, but the real core of it was word of mouth, and that's where the strength still is for me. You get people in the door. We did a few presentation evenings, so we get people in and explain what we're doing, give people a few trial sessions, and get the juniors involved. So yeah, it was just very much a very personal approach, because for me, golf and coaching is a personal service. So if we connect with the individuals and we do a good job, we build trust. They're going to speak to friends, they're going to speak to family, and it grows nice and organically. And then you complement that with your email, your social media. That's really been the way we've kind of implemented it, and being patient with it. We know that Rome's not built in a day, and just let it grow nicely. And yeah, it's trending. It's growing, and we're hoping we just keep it bubbling along and keep it developing.
Mm-hmm. Was there something, let's say at the beginning of the development of this program, something that you thought might work well and it turned out it didn't, like something you had to change your mind on?
Yeah, quite a bit. So, the original structure, the timings of the classes. So, the sort of the older age group, I implement. I originally identified as a Sunday morning thing would be good. Plus, I actually had more one-to-one time in that built in. So instead of say 1 hour per block, it was 2 hours. So I thought, well, they're going to want more one-to-one time. There's going to be more in-depth analysis required, yada yada yada. But actually, what's happened is that I've actually adapted it so that actually fits the same structure as the 9 to 12-year-old group. And I've also moved that to a Friday afternoon. And so we're lucky here, the Edinburgh schools and the local schools, they get a half day, on a Friday. So that leaves the afternoon open for things like golf. So that's nice. That's been really cool. That's been really cool because that then now opens up the door. Well, the keen juniors are going to want to go play on a Sunday. That's when their competitions are going to be. So, if I've got training on a Sunday morning, one thing I learned is, well, they're not able to play. So, they're not going to engage with the program because, well, they want to go play. So, so the timing and understanding that with the local area was a big thing that I've learned. And that actually took a year to figure out, we were like, well, the younger age groups are doing well. Why aren't we busy here with the older ones? So it was a little bit of a, double whammy. It was, one, it was a bit more expensive, and two, the timing wasn't great. So then we figured out, well, let's reduce the cost because we've not got as much one-to-one time. Plus, we've moved the timing. Then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, we've like doubled the numbers. And it's like not through anything more. Initially we thought it was an awareness thing with marketing, but it's not. It's me making sure that we've got the right time, the right price bracket that fits, and it's starting to grow. So I guess it's a simple fundamental of know your audience, know your market, and then just service that with the best thing you possibly can. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned from this year so far.
It's a cool one. What about the parents and their role in the academy? How do you communicate with them, and how active are they in the, let's say, in the sessions or in the program in general?
So, I mean, the big thing, for me when it comes to parents is keeping them involved, and communicating with them about how best to support, their junior, effectively their child or their grandchild or their niece or their nephew, and just kind of a little bit of just candid conversations about what the things to do, the pitfalls, the things to avoid. So I've done a few presentation evenings, but most of the time it's been a conversation before the session, after the session, and helping them understand the best way to support them on a one-to-one basis, or even as a bit of a group at the end. And I guess we're lucky here. I mean, the parents are great. We've not had any situations where we've had any the classic pushy parents or anything like that. We have quite a few. We're lucky that we've got the US Kids European Championships happens at Gullen, just up the road. So a lot of the parents have seen that top level young junior competition side of things. So they've seen maybe some parents that go overboard, some parents that are a bit pushy. So when it comes to my guidance, I just keep them engaged. I do sort of point them in the direction of Pierre and Lynn from Vision 54s. They've got a great book, a great resource about parent, sport parent for the future and golf parent for the future. that's got some really great information. So there's, pointing them away of resources. But I guess it's just candor and honesty and trust. That's what I've found has worked. And I keep them in the loop. I inform them verbally about what we're working on, and I get the juniors to use a notebook, so the juniors write out what they've learned on the sessions, what they're working on, so then parents can basically then take that, have a discussion with the juniors, and if you've got a classic say junior that's not too forthcoming with with parents and what they've done, the parents can always just check out the notebook and see what they're up to, because I've just found that that when it comes to say your other platforms like say WhatsApp, or other people maybe use forums, for me I've struggled with that engagement in those platforms, plus child protection and data protection. It just kind of puts my back up a little bit. I always worry about that stuff. So just to make sure that we keep ourselves right, notebook, want face-to-face conversations, maybe an email, or I just kind of go old school and just pick up the phone and have a chat if needed, because then that way it just trust builds, engagement builds, and then if there are any issues or any questions, then parents feel fairly comfortable with just know that they can contact me. Unfortunately, I've not had any midnight phone calls yet, so so yeah, we've been that's for me just being pretty old school in the way that we communicate. Kind of works pretty well.
I think it's easy to forget with all the email automation and automated Facebook posts to actually speak directly to people, because as you said, it's a service business in a way.
Yeah, I think so, and I always think that it's like whenever you receive a letter in the post, which one do you open first, the one that's been typed or the one that's got handwriting on the front of it? One thing that I always like to do with the notebooks that we give the juniors is write a little bit of an inscription on them in the front of it. Just a little bit of inspiration, maybe get them to just understand how powerful that is. But yeah, it's I think I always think good expressions. No one proposes via email, do they? So it's kind of that's the way that I like to communicate with the parents, and I guess in general, when everyone else is emailing, pick up the phone and have a chat.
That's a good one. Last question that I wanted to ask: what do you think in general makes a good junior coach? Because you've had the chance to see some of the best coaches in the world, and you certainly got a lot of experience on your back. So what do you think makes a good junior coach?
I think, to be honest, someone who really cares about developing the individual, not just a golfer. I think that for me is I guess someone Cameron McCormack sticks in my mind about someone who he clearly just cares about the guys and girls he coaches. Chris Mason, is another guy that he clearly just really cares about the individuals that he looks after, and both of them do. And seen that with Pierre and Lynn, Henry. They care about the individuals that are in their programs, and I think from there, once you care, the things that then fall out are, well, you're going to go that extra mile. You're going to read that research paper. You're going to analyze that a little bit deeper. You're going to want to go that extra mile for those individuals. I think that's for me the trend that I've noticed in that's, I'd say, world-class junior coaching. Because I think, say, the hard skills of identifying or changing golf swings, or understanding TrackMan numbers is there, and that's fine. But to actually help young people develop as individuals who play golf, I think you just need to care about them, and I think that everything stems from that. So yeah, that would be my kind of that one thing that at the end of the day, if you don't care, then they're not going to care. And you tend to find that if you're motivated because you care about that individual, they'll reciprocate. And yeah, I think that's, I guess, for me, the number one. And then and then do your homework, go do some courses, get some knowledge, and then that passion and that the two that complement, you're probably going to do all right.
It's a beautiful message. Is there something that we didn't talk about that you want to touch on? Something important for junior coaches, let's say?
I guess, I guess the biggest thing for me, if you are getting into junior coaching and you're looking to develop a program, I think a lot of people, when they get into coaching, they like the idea and the glamour of looking at, coaching tour players and working with, really high performing athletes. But, I think that, be patient. You're not going to see results. Maybe, it's going to take you 10 years to start to see the results of your work there. But, I think just be patient. Develop your philosophy. Don't be afraid to ask questions and seek help. I think that would be kind of the number one. And if you want to work with a tour player, I would say that the best thing to do is develop your own. And so that would be kind of I guess, the message. Probably already said that a little bit in what I've said, but earlier on. But yeah, I think that be patient, be passionate, and just go for it.
Awesome. It's been great, Oliver. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, no, pleasure. And thanks so much for having me on. And hopefully no one's fallen asleep listening to me.
No, I'm sure they haven't. Awesome. Thanks, Oliver.
Pleasure. Thanks again.
This is Wojciech again. Thanks for listening. If you don't want to miss any future episodes in this junior series, subscribe to the podcast or sign up to the mailing list. You can find all the links on ParticipationCoaching.com/subscribe. If you have any suggestions on future guests or just any feedback on the podcast in general, feel free to shoot me an email at hi@ParticipationCoaching.com. Thanks for listening again, and I'll hear you next time. Music in this episode came from bensound.com.